Well, Americans don't really understand how they are seen in other places in the world, too, that this is the freest and most just nation on earth that has no political prisoners, that incidents of judicial misconduct and police misconduct are aberrations to the system. The rest of the world does not believe that. They actually do watch American media, and they see that this is a violent nation in which the law enforcement authorities don't pay too much attention to the law. So they're more receptive to the reality.
The officer stops the tape. It's not known what happened while the tape was off, but when it comes back on, Garbarino is lying on the floor in a pool of blood.
Lie down. Lie down. Don't move.
Another officer comes in to look at Garbarino, then walks out. Garbarino's lawyer says she suffered a broken nose, a severe cut on the forehead, 2 broken teeth, and bruises on her arms and shoulder. Attorney Ron Machota says Garbarino was not driving drunk that night. As to what happened at the police station, he says, quote, the whole situation could have been avoided if the officer had followed procedure. Now, Officer Willis was fired a little earlier this month. His attorney, Aaron Brainerd, says the officer did not beat Garbarino and that her injuries were caused when she fell while being taken to jail.
I'm hopeful that I'll get some type of fair hearing before any execution date is set.
I'm thinking to myself, I just know he's not about to hit me. And before I could get that thought in my head, wham, he hits me dead center on the top of my head. Like I said, they were professionals. They knew what to do not to show bruisings on the face and on the...
That's when they start beating me, and they start beating me and telling me that they wanted me to make a tape and that I was going to tell them what they wanted to hear. And I knew that, I'm saying, I felt like they'd sit there and they'd just keep on beating me until I was unconscious. They beat me for 7 hours.
One of the original investigating officers, Mike Guzzi, also does not waver.
I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever.
Clemens accuses 2 former St. Louis officers beat him to a confession.
That's ridiculous. I categorically deny that. It's just absurd.
That statement that Mike Guzzi made on the news broadcast that Reggie Clemens' allegation that his confession was coerced was absurd, and that he categorically denied it really jumps out in this case. I mean, the facts contradict Guzzi's statement.
I'm not sure about the exact date, but I do know that the judge sent us both to the hospital at the same time. He sent him to the hospital. He issued an order, Judge Michael Davis issued an order for me and Marlon to be taken immediately after our arraignment. So as soon as we got over to the jail, they started processing us, waiting to transport us to the hospital.
I categorically deny that. It's just absurd.
And you got free and sane and just person in this room and every community we know that we come from wants justice for those girls.
Absolutely.
Don't we? Yes, we do. Yeah. But we don't want to see innocent people railroaded to be held to her account. And one of the things that facilitated that was the brutality of police officers questioning her son and the lousy corruption of the prosecutor who took the case.
It was on November the 2nd, 1983, between the hours of 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. A group of all-white detectives invaded my apartment where I stayed with my common-law wife and my son. They kicked open the door, they cursed her out, they searched for me, they finally found me, they gave me my clothes, they ransacked the entire apartment, found nothing. They took me downstairs, placed me on my knees in front of the vestibule until the rest of the detectives had searched other apartments. Then they came down, put me in the car. They drove around looking for another guy that they say was complicit in this particular crime. After they didn't find him, they took me to the police station. I stayed there for a short period of time. They took me out of the police station. They took me to a restaurant that caters to truckers and police officers. They left me double handcuffed in the backseat of a detective car while they went in and had breakfast. They came out from breakfast. They took me to a remote area where they drove through a pipe, came out on the opposite end of an isolated area where there was nothing but water and railroad tracks around. They got me out the backseat of the car, and they proceeded to ask me some more questions about a homicide that had took place. I told them I had no knowledge about the homicide. They then did a mock hanging where I'm cuffed behind my back, and one of the detectives would get on the bumper of the detective car. The other two detectives would lift me up to him, and he would grab my handcuffs from behind. They would let me go. That would cause my arms to go up backwards, almost wrenching the inside of my shoulders. That method went on for I don't know how long, but eventually it wasn't successful because of the fact that there was a fine mist rain out that morning, and John Burns, which is the tallest detective, he kept slipping off the back of the bumper. They did switch to a second torture treatment, which was the shotgun, where they got their shotgun, pump shotgun out the back, out the trunk of the car. And Peter Dignett, which is another one of the detectives, the most vicious one out of all of them, he proceeds to ask me some more questions about the murder and to tell me what they knew had already occurred and want me to fill in the gaps. I refused to do so. He took a shotgun shell, showed it to me. Now his exact words were, "Listen, nigga," and that's when he turned his back to me. I heard a clicking sound, which seems like it was the shell being placed in the chamber. He turned back around to face me. I no longer seen a shotgun shell. So they continued to ask me questions. I refused to answer. One of them said, "Go ahead, blow that nigga's head off." And that's when Peter Dignett forced the shotgun in my mouth. And he said, "You're not going to tell me I want to hear? You're not going to tell me?" I said, "No." And that's when he pulled the trigger. They did this mock execution 3 times. The third time they did it, when I heard that trigger pull, in my mind, I thought he was blowing the back of my head off because the hair on the back of my head stood straight up when I heard that click. By them not being successful in getting what they wanted out of me, they did a third treatment, which was they put me in the back seat of a detective car. They unhandcuffed my cuffs from behind, put them in front. John Burns had a gun to my head and told me, "Don't move," when they redid the handcuffs. They put me sideways in the back seat of a detective car and made me lay down across the seat. They pulled my pants and my shorts down, and that's when Burns took an electric caliper, turned it on, and proceeded to shock me on my testicles.
The result of torture with a device like this one.
You hook the alligator clips to your nose, genitals, whatever. Crank, electricity, shocks you. This is what there was at least 25 victims of police torture. Birds used the box on.
Shock. Suffocating people with plastic bags, pushing them against hot radiators. They were inflicting severe pain that would cause almost anybody to confess.
They're serving very lengthy terms. And today, it's now 2010, one man, John Burge, has been indicted, not for the torture, because the statute of limitations has now run on those offenses, but for lying about the torture. So he has been indicted for obstruction of justice and perjury in his testimony in civil suits.
If you want me to say God, if God killed me, I was killing God, I did that too. Because that's how bad it was.
As far as having a plastic bag placed on my head, being beaten, being disrespected, being called niggers, being threatened to death. We were young kids being forced to deal with a system. Many of us went to the state's attorney in the process of being forced to sign confessions. Before we got writing and signing our names on that bogus confessions, we confronted the state's attorneys with the allegation of torture. They saw scars. They saw tears. They saw the beaten chest of Gregory Banks. They saw the injuries on Darrell Cannon. They saw the injuries on St. Holmes. But they turned a deaf ear. And today, I'm encouraging you guys to go further and look into the state's attorneys who participated in these cases. See what they have grown and developed. See now as they sit on the judges' benches right now, and they run the prosecutor's office, and they run the county investigation.